Welcome to High Oracles Reiki Spiritual Healing Channel. And I got a question from one of my followers, and he says he has been getting conflicting answers from different people that he has reached out to. So he decided to book a consultation with me and ask his question. And he wanted to know, is animal sacrifices ever necessary? Okay, so this is what we're talking about. If animal sacrifices, and this is can be a very broad kind of question, and it depends on what is needed, what you're trying to obtain. So the first thing that I have to start with the holy books. Okay, and we strive to be like the prophets, what God has given to the prophets. So if God has given most of the prophets Adam, he had an altar, so that necessarily meant he used burnt offerings. We have Noah, that also came off of Noah's Ark, in order to, and built an altar for burnt offerings. We have Abraham that ransomed the sacrifice of his son Isaac, okay, with a ram in the bush. So there are certain times and certain places, in the holy books that is necessary for a sacrifice, an animal sacrifice. And anyone who is telling you otherwise, then they are not a spiritual healer. They do not do this type of work. They do not use the holy books in order to remove the negative energy. So you cannot ask certain people who do not have this type of knowledge, or who do not use this type of practice, in order to remove any kind of negative sins that may be attached to the family, that may be attached to a situation. So let me give you an example about that. And like I say, there are certain people, they try their best, and I know that they're in alignment probably with, animal rights activists, but we're talking about the sacrifices of, animals for negative energy. Okay, so it is a ritual. You can do this as a ritual to remove negative energy, and you have to be a spiritual healer, or you can be one of those practitioners that do this for hire in order to attack people. But usually these types of spiritual practices is also used to make someone leave you alone, to make someone stop gang stalking you or running a smear campaign against you. Excuse me, guys, I got the incense going in here. So we have the cleansing rituals, and and let me get my paper, because I had to write this down for you guys who wanted to know this. And I have been getting similar questions, and like I said, you cannot go to AI, or people who do not have the familiar rituals and use them on a regular basis in order to remove negative energy from a situation. So like I said, these types of rituals were used by the healers, by Aaron. This is what I was telling you. About the Leviticus, the Azazel, the scapegoat, used by Aaron, the brother, the priest, the brother of Moses, okay, to remove the sins from the children of Israel and cast them on into a goat, okay? And like I said, there are certain practices and rituals that will have to be, performed by someone with the spiritual authority, just as it was in those times. And in this particular case, the animal was not sacrificed. It was set free for free pasture to roam into other lands and take that negative energy wherever it roamed to whoever it roamed to. Okay, So, that means that wherever that animal went, it carried a negative energy with it. Okay, so this is what I was trying to teach you guys, and we're still working on this. So this is why I thought that this would be a very good question. And if you go to Leviticus 14, and these are cleansing rituals that was used with animal sacrifices at that time. And there are 3 phases for that. You also have, animal sacrifices throughout the holy books, throughout the Quran as well. Animal sacrifices, they have every nation has a ceremonial rites. Okay, especially where you're lining up the animals, the camels, and pronouncing the name of God over those animals for sacrifice, and you're feeding the needy and the poor out of those animals. And that's in the Quran. I think that's in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Okay, so you want to make sure that you are asking these questions to someone who knows about these types of rituals, who are able to use certain rituals to sacrifice, animals in order to remove negative energy off of themselves, off of, off of family members, and remove them from situations. I usually use these types of rituals if a person has tried to do everything that they can do in order to remove the negative energy from them or their families. And so we're talking about also a sacrifice of animals, a blood sacrifice, in order to remove certain types of attacks that experience spiritual narcissists have sent to an individual, or those covens, those people who are in secret societies that will use certain types of attacks in the courtroom. There are certain, people that will use certain types of attacks in places in order to gain control over the situation, especially when you're dealing with the police, the government, and that type of attack will have to be met with a certain type of sacrifice in order to maybe gain the body parts of a certain animal and to stop the attack, to be transferred. And this is what I've been talking about for you guys, the transference of the negative energy into the animal, so that it can stop that attack of the smear campaign, the targeting, and this is when you're using these, when the negative energy has gotten to a level that the person, that the cleansing rituals have become immune for this type of situation. And we move on to something that is more progressive when we're talking about these types of rituals. So you have to make sure that you know that you're dealing with someone, and maybe this person is telling this follower these types of things because they don't know how to do these types of things. But when you're using a progressive method, there's only certain people with spiritual knowledge and spiritual authority that knows how to carry out a ritual, an animal ritual. And there's a certain way that the animal must be slaughtered, and there's a certain way that the animal also in certain cases must be buried. Okay, so we have these understandings that everyone is not going to know how to do these types of rituals. These rituals are given to the holy books, to certain prophets, for atonements, of sins, to in certain cases, for young mothers when they have a baby, they are supposed to give 2 small animals, a dove as atonement. There are certain rituals that are mentioned in the Holy Bible that when a person had leprosy, then those 3 phases of cleansing ritual where the blood of a small animal is spread over the body, and then the body is anointed, and the person must bring an offering to the temple or to the priest, okay, to God's house. So this is what we have. Those are just some children's getting out of school. So we have this type of understanding that these types of people, everyone isn't a spiritual healer. Okay, and you can see these types of things in their title. If they have never committed this type of cleansing ritual, if they do not know nothing about it, then a lot of times they will say, you don't need to use that type of ritual, or they will say everything except for they don't know about this type of sacrificial ritual. So you should not be addressing those types of people if your situation has reached a level where you need to use a sacrificial animal. And a lot of people with court cases, they will come to me with certain things, and it will have to be their situation has reached a level where these gang stalking people in the government will try to indict someone. And in many cases, a lot of people will come to me with these types of rituals in order to remove the negative energy from them, especially if you have the bloodline curses where you have a father that was in prison, where and now the son is being tried for imprisonment. You want to be able to break those bloodline curses. Also with the females, if you're having problems with your menstruals, your menstrual cycle, and it's very heavy, and on the verge of hemorrhage, then you want to also use these types of healing methods to transfer that negative energy from your bloodline. From if your mother had these types of patterns, and you're seeing these types of patterns in sickness and nothing else has worked, then we can use this type of sacrificial animal in order to transfer that negative energy or that sickness off into the animal. And I hope that this has answered your question, because we have these types of rituals again in the Holy Bible and the Holy Quran. And you can reach out to me if your situation has reached a degree that you feel that it has become immune to regular practices, and we can definitely remove that negative energy from you and your bloodline, or your situation, and transfer it to animal sacrifice, or we can set it free. And I hope you receive this message. So please like, share, and subscribe to me over all of my platforms. You can book your one-on-one life coaching sessions or your video chat sessions. Please book your consultation so that I can acclimate a gift to your situation. Like, share, and subscribe. Giving offerings. I'm High Oracle, Reiki spiritual healer. Assalamu alaikum.